Today, we're diving deep into the recently released Epstein files. And what they reveal is, frankly, a disturbing global network of power, influence, and, well, alleged criminality. So let's start at the very center of this whole twisted web.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're talking about a massive 7-story mansion right in Manhattan. It's actually one of the largest private homes in the entire city. But this was no ordinary luxury palace. No, this place was more like a stage, and the decor was designed to be deeply, deeply unsettling.
I mean, just imagine walking in. You're immediately greeted by dozens of fake eyeballs staring back at you. Then you look up, and there's a life-sized sculpture of a bride just hanging from the ceiling. In the office, a taxidermied tiger. And casually sitting on a bookshelf is a first edition of Lolita, the infamous novel about an adult's obsession with a young girl. It was all just so deliberate. A carefully curated, incredibly bizarre scene.
And here's the crazy part. This bizarre mansion was a regular hangout for the absolute global elite. We're talking presidents, princes, prime ministers, billionaires. They all frequented these halls. And all around them were photos of Epstein grinning with people like Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and even Pope John Paul II. Which, of course, brings us to the central mystery of this entire thing. How on earth did a college dropout, a former math teacher, get so much money and influence that he could just summon the world's most powerful people to his weird mansion? Well, the answer seems to lie in a very carefully constructed web of secrets.
Yeah, the prevailing theory here is that Epstein's real currency wasn't money. It was blackmail. He was allegedly using his properties as these elaborate traps to get leverage over all of his powerful guests.
Listen to this. One victim, Maria Farmer, testified that Epstein had a whole media room with monitors showing live feeds from hidden cameras all over the house. Her description of what she saw is chillingly simple. Toilet, toilet, bed, bed. It was just constant, invasive surveillance. And look, this wasn't just testimony. During their raids, law enforcement found the physical proof. The FBI discovered hidden cameras in his homes, and this is crucial, they found a hidden safe full of locked CDs. Each one was reportedly labeled with the name of a young girl, followed by the name of another person. So when you start to connect the dots, the creepy surveillance, the super powerful guests, and these labeled recordings, a really disturbing picture starts to emerge. A lot of people believe his whole finance career was just a front for his real business, collecting compromat, or compromising material on the elites so he could use it as leverage. So, who exactly was caught in this web? Well, these newly released files have put some very famous names and some very disturbing details to all the rumors that have been swirling for years, connecting Epstein to some of the most recognizable people on the planet. Maybe the most dramatic fall from grace has been Britain's Prince Andrew. The files have these emails from 2010 where Epstein is offering him introductions. Then, of course, was that disastrous BBC interview. By 2022, he's settling a multi-million-dollar lawsuit with his accuser, Virginia Giuffre. The fallout from all of this was just immense, and he was ultimately stripped of his royal titles and all his duties. Then you have figures like Bill Gates. Publicly, he really downplayed their connection, but the files show they met multiple times after Epstein was already a convicted sex offender in 2008. Gates even flew on Epstein's private jet. And even more disturbing, the files contain draft emails written by Epstein himself with unverified allegations about an affair involving Gates, which really suggest a potential blackmail attempt. And the tech world was definitely not immune. Google co-founder Sergey Brin was reportedly seen on Epstein's private island more than once. And then, in a wild twist of irony, you've got Elon Musk, who once accused Donald Trump of hiding these exact files. Turns out he was emailing Epstein asking, and I'm quoting here, "What day/night will be the wildest party on your island?" But here's what's really new in this latest batch of documents. It's the extent of Epstein's network in South Asia, and it reveals some pretty surprising connections to some of the most powerful people in India. Just take a look at this message. It's from the industrialist Anil Ambani to Epstein back in 2017. He's not asking for financial advice. He's asking for guidance on dealing with the White House for U.S.-India relations. This really shows that Epstein was seen as a major political power broker at the absolute highest levels. And it goes even further than that. In another message, Ambani says very clearly that leadership wants Epstein's help setting up meetings with President Trump's inner circle, specifically Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon. The implication here is pretty obvious. He was acting on behalf of some very high-ups in the Indian government. Okay, just follow this timeline because it lays out a really stunning sequence of events. On the very same day as India's 2019 election results, Anil Ambani meets Epstein at his New York mansion. Epstein then messages Trump's strategist Steve Bannon that, quote, Modi was sending someone. After the meeting, Epstein texts Bannon, really interesting Modi meeting, and then follows up with, Modi on board.
Another prominent Indian figure named in the files is Hardeep Singh Puri, who's now a government minister. The documents show at least 3 meetings at Epstein's home. Now, it's important to note this was all before he officially entered government, but it shows a long-standing connection. Epstein was even introducing him to tech founders as your man in India. And now we get to what is probably the most sensational claim in all of these documents. In a 2017 email, Epstein alleges that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took advice for his trip to Israel, basically implying that he, Epstein, was the one giving the advice. He claims the whole visit was for the benefit of the US president, and then, in all caps, he types, "It worked." Now, for its part, the Indian government has forcefully shut this down. The Ministry of External Affairs dismissed the email as the trashy ruminations by a convicted criminal and said it deserved the utmost contempt. So, with all of these explosive revelations out in the open, what's actually happened? Well, this brings us to what is maybe the most frustrating part of this entire saga, the almost complete and total lack of accountability. And here's one reason why many people think the full story is still buried. Of the roughly 6 million documents that the Justice Department identified in this case, about 40%, we're talking millions of pages, are still sealed from public view, which just makes you wonder, what other names and what other secrets are in there?
I mean, just look at this. The numbers here paint such a stark picture. Dozens, if not hundreds, of powerful people have been implicated in this whole scandal through documents, flight logs, testimony, you name it. And how many have actually been jailed for it? Just one, Epstein's associate Ghislaine Maxwell.
And what makes this lack of justice even worse is this string of suspicious deaths. Epstein himself died in his jail cell, officially ruled a suicide. Jean-Luc Brunel, a key associate, was also found dead in his Paris jail cell, also an alleged suicide. With so many key figures silenced, a lot of questions are just left hanging.
And that leaves us with the final, haunting question. When you think about the enormous scale of this network, the secrets he held, and his own, let's just say, convenient death in custody, was Jeffrey Epstein really just a lone monster? Or was he a gatekeeper of secrets who was ultimately silenced to protect the very powerful people he served?